Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Brody Tennant with Tennant Commercial Group. Today we just want to celebrate the first 10 episodes of TCG TV. So we're going to do a quick recap of all the different episodes and all different facets of commercial real estate we've covered in the first 10 episodes. Jesse, so what are you kind of seeing some of the biggest obstacles right now? Obviously, given COVID is throwing everybody's business in all different directions and it's affecting people different ways, but what are some of the biggest obstacles you're seeing?
Yeah, I think the biggest obstacle is fear. So the biggest obstacle is the fear of offending people by reaching out and asking for their business. It's the fear of being insensitive to another person. It's the fear that you could be talking to somebody who either doesn't have a job right now or may not have their job in another month. So these are all really serious, they're not unfounded fears, right? So they're definitely, they're definitely relevant. And that's one of the biggest obstacles I see right now is it's so tough when things are unclear, like a confused mind says no, generally speaking. So if you're not sure, generally speaking, people say no and hold steady. So, the big obstacle right now for companies is saying yes to themselves and embracing the fact that maybe everything isn't certain, but there's still great opportunities for them. And then the second piece that goes along with that is then getting their customers or prospects to say yes and move them off of no. So those are the biggest obstacles I see right now. It's just the general uncertainty and the fear that naturally comes with that.
What are you seeing in regards to some techniques about safely reopening?
So all the things that you see, like anybody that's gone to the grocery store, those are all good things to mimic. Putting tape down to help customers know how to space themselves, putting plexiglass at the register, wearing masks, all that stuff, of course, is important. But where we really come in is with sanitizers. We offer different options. You can buy it by the gallon. Some people do a pump. Some people that are maybe having issues with customers trying to steal sanitizer, which sounds terrible and sad, but it happens. Yeah. There are options where you can have wall mount dispensers. We have a guy who is welding iron stands. So if you don't want to mount something to the wall, you can do a wall mount. A freestanding mounted unit.
Those we also were customized too, right?
What's that?
Those were customized too, right? Those steel stands. Can't you put your logo on them?
You can. There's a general style. It just says sanitizer. It's a base price, and then if you want to customize it for an additional charge, you can put your name on it. The other thing that we have that's really cool are these individual sanitizing wet naps. So it's similar to what you would get if you go eat crabs or wings. They're individually packaged. And this is something a lot of restaurants are using to put at place settings. So when your customers come in, they can sanitize their hands. These are different from ordinary wet naps because they have alcohol and, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, benzalkonium chloride. So it's disinfecting. So little unique things like that help a lot. We've also started carrying and selling a lot more hard surface sanitizers, sprays, things that you can use on counters, cart handles, doorknobs, restaurant tables. Anything, any hard surface, because people are definitely cleaning a lot more than they used to.
As businesses still are trying to pick back up, are you seeing a way to some sort of amendment to the lease needs to be signed and sent into the
yes, as a matter of fact, I was speaking to a commercial real estate attorney, a friend of mine yesterday, and what he's been doing is he's been doing a lot of lease negotiations right now with larger tenants, people that are occupying 2,500, 5,000, 75, 10,000 square feet. They are adding the difference onto the, usually they're giving them like a 6-month stay, and then they're going in and saying, okay, we're going to add up this rent and we're going to sprinkle it over the next 2 to 3 years, of your lease. They're also going in and making some adjustments to the increases and some of the clauses on there as well. Some of the tenants are also unable to, a lot of these are triple net. So a lot of times the tenant is paying the taxes and the insurance and the utilities, and the tenant isn't able to. So here you have the landlord saying, I don't want to go into a tax sale or a foreclosure myself, so they have to pick that up. So it's really a negotiation, because ultimately the tenant wants to stay, the landlord wants them to stay. It's beneficial for both of them to work together to make that plan stretch out, as opposed to not. And believe it or not, a majority of businesses, they want to get back to work, and a majority of landlords are willing to work with their tenants.
So for some people that don't know, I mean, we obviously deal with strictly real estate transactions. We referred stuff to Don before on the business side, but some people don't understand the difference between how a commercial transaction may work versus a business broker's transaction. You mind giving a little bit of background about the difference between a transaction business brokerage?
The real difference is that when you're doing real estate, you're selling a tangible. And when we're dealing with things, we're dealing a very intangible, conceptual kind of a thing in many respects. What we're selling is goodwill.
Yeah.
And you measure goodwill by history of earnings and profitability for the company. One of the big things that a buyer is going to want to take a look at is how well can that goodwill be conveyed. When you've got a building, you're pretty well certain that it's going to convey fairly well from one buyer or from one seller to another person. With a great example is if a guy has a business where his name is the Don Barrett Corporation, and he is the president, he's also the premier salesman, and he is the HR guy, and so on and so forth. How are you going to pass that on to somebody else? If Don Barrett leaves, what's going to be remaining? So these are the types of things that we work with people on over a long-term basis in some circumstances to get the seller in a position so he can convey these kinds of things on to the next buyer safely.
Exactly is. So if you don't mind, share with us a little bit about what exactly or why you would do a 1031 and the exact benefits of it.
Most people, after they've held an investment property for a period of time, the reason they utilize 1031 is so they can defer those capital gains. They've usually depreciated the property over the course of the period of ownership. And if they've held it for any period of time, when they depreciate that, they end up selling it, and the IRS says, thank you very much. We're glad that you reaped the benefit of the depreciation, and now we want to recapture that back. So the component of the depreciation recapture in itself, a lot of investors aren't even aware of that, and it's 25%. So that's pretty painful if you have held that property for any length of time. So that in itself is kind of a motivation for a lot of people that have held their real estate investment and depreciated it on their taxes. Not to mention the federal capital gains tax, the state tax, and the various components of taxation that they're hit with the following year when they report that sale if they don't use the 1031. So it's mainly, most people want to use the exchange tool, mainly so they can defer that capital gains tax and not have to remit that check. That's pretty painful. Sometimes they use it because they want to diversify their real estate portfolio. They might need cash flow. There's lots of different reasons that people do it. One of the main reasons I think a lot of people do it is they build wealth for their families by way of real estate. It's an awesome tool if you stay in the game. So a lot of people that start exchanging, you'll hear the term swap till you drop, which is kind of funny. But if they stay in the game and they just continue to exchange, let's just say over 30 years of ownership, they build wealth and they continue to exchange, and then they pass away. The heirs to their real estate or their real property, they step up in basis. The heirs suffer no consequence of what they've deferred over those years of exchanging. So most people, when they get in it, they stay in it. They try to set a goal to stay, exchange, and just build wealth by real estate.
Brian, what's really the latest going on with some of these industries that since COVID with reopening or just trying to maintain business?
Sure. So, we're seeing a lot of the state reopen slowly. I mean, business on the business front, there's a lot of optimism. People are excited to get back to work, get their doors back open. Even if it's only operating at a limited capacity, business owners want to get back off the ground and they want to get their businesses running. We're fortunate that we're in a state that has seen kind of continued low COVID rates. So, we're optimistic that that's going to be work in our favor towards keeping businesses up and running and keeping the doors open. Behind the scenes, recently we've seen a lot more activity pick back up amongst the private sector. It seemed like a lot of people who had expansion plans kind of put them on hold for a little while, but we are starting to see more and more chatter about people looking to kind of continue to pick up those plans and pick up those expansions and really interested in kind of taking it to the next level. There's no doubt that this has definitely hit our Main Street businesses, our restaurants hard, but with plans being reopened and more and more people getting back to the normal, that's all been very, very good step for them.
The real estate market as a whole and investing, commercial real estate investing, what are you kind of seeing in the marketplace right now?
Well, I think it was very strong until COVID hit in mid-March, and then I think that people become more cautious. And I don't know if that's a great strategy or not. I think people are worried about office space because of the work at home and how that will change our environment. But I see people being more cautious, extending due diligence periods, negotiating longer due diligence periods.
Yep.
So a little caution out there now.
Yeah, see, it depends on different asset types, but it's really just kind of some businesses are open, some are shut down, and some are rebounding well, some are going to be a longer rehab process. So it's really, it's tough right now for some of the investors to find out what businesses are in these buildings are going to survive, which ones aren't.
Sure.
We've seen a lot of the investors and developers saying, hey, we don't know what things to be trading for right now. We don't know what it's going to look like in 6 months, and they're just putting things on hold to see what happens with the market. So when you say people are kind of putting off or holding on to some cash right now, it's really hard to time the market is a very good point. What are you seeing in residential versus commercial? Are you guys still seeing strong numbers on residential side?
Residential's up 100% with our numbers.
In regards to closings?
With regard to closings and new orders, it's pacing probably to be our strongest year. And we were formed in 1992. I think this year will be probably our strongest year when it's all said and done. The liquidity that the government's put in the market has deflated the rates. Most lenders are now having trouble keeping up with demand. I would tell you that we are doing the best we can, but we are also having a little bit of trouble keeping up with demand. But we're doing well. I'm really proud of our employees.
Yeah, we've seen some crazy demand for buyers on the residential side with rates so low. Now rates have been pretty low on the commercial side too, but lenders have been very, very meticulous about which companies or which businesses they are lending to. So
well, I think the banks, I think the default officers in the banks and the senior executives are really trying to project what they believe their default ratio is going to be when all this settles down, and hopefully in 6 months or a year.
Yeah, and it's hard to predict because they don't know how people are going to rebound and how much the government's really going to forgive some of these loans, especially the PPP and all these different loans that are going out there now for PPP and the other loans that were lent out on businesses that are shut down now.
Yeah, my gut, and you asked me the question a few minutes ago, my gut feeling is that the commercial property in established neighborhoods outside, locally, I'm just talking about the local market, your Catonsville, your Towson, White Marsh, Ellings and Mills, I think they're going to be fine. I think they're niche buildings. I worry a little bit about the business district in Baltimore City because the buildings are so large. Work at home is going to probably contract a lot of what those tenants need. And then you have the other issues going on with safety
Yeah.
in Baltimore City. So I worry a little bit about the business district in Baltimore City
And
and other
yeah.
cities.
And majority of those buildings down there are high sky rises where you can't really social distance yourselves, and there's so many of them down in the city. There's going to be a lot of supply with, I don't think, nearly as much demand as there was 6 months ago.
And it presents challenges about how to bring people back from work, right? Because, we have 40 total employees here. We have, I think, around 32 or so working from home. We're able to take our 8 or 10 people that are here and, test them, communicate with them very efficiently. But the larger companies, and we're lucky in that we're not sharing this office building with them. So it's just us. If you're in a larger building, like to your point, Brody, downtown, you can maybe control your people, but you're still in the common areas, maybe with companies that don't have the same controls.
Yeah.
So it's more of a risk. So there's some significant challenges with that.
Yeah, I think office space is really going to see the most kind of change in the marketplace, and not necessarily only the amount of what their kind of the market value is or market value of rents, but there's just going to be a lot of repurposing, I think, a lot of those spaces. And
All right, everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions at all about any commercial real estate needs, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to help. But otherwise, talk to you guys next time. See ya. Sorry, I have terrible handwriting with this thing. Oh boy, that's ugly. Take a minute to erase this stuff though. Okay, 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 okay. Hello and welcome to TCG TV episode 4, How Do I Underwrite a Commercial Deal? I'm Brody Tennant, Tennant Commercial Group. Hello and welcome to TCG TV episode 4. I'm Brody Tennant with Tennant Commercial Group. How do I underwrite a deal right now? Hello, it is Brody Tennant. Hello and welcome back, everybody. It's Brody Tennant with Tennant Commercial Group, episode 4. How do I underwrite a commercial deal during COVID? Hello and welcome back to TCG TV. I'm Brody Tennant with Tennant Commercial Group. We are on episode 4, and today we're going to talk about how to underwrite a commercial real estate deal. So what else? I guess we can always cut this out. So